So this is my story time. Okay, I literally have a whole list of notes in front of me to make sure that I don't forget details. So me and my roommates, like a year and a half ago, were sitting on our couch and all of a sudden hear like literally a bloody murder scream, like sounded like someone was being murdered. So immediately we're like, oh my God, let's call the police because something's happening. So we call 911 and they come, and because we don't know exactly what apartment unit number the sound is coming from, they say that they can't do anything. And I was like, you can't go door to door. And they were like, no, sorry, there's really nothing we can do. If it happens again, try to figure out what apartment number it's coming from. So I was like, okay, so that's not helpful at all. So throughout the week, like we start hearing screaming all of the time, and we call the police multiple times. I know that other people in the building are calling the police because they'll show up at our building when we weren't the ones who called. I'm going to insert a clip of what it sounded like, the screams, right here. So in that first semester that it started happening, we called the police at least, I would say, 10 times. And then so obviously like I started calling the super and emailing like higher up people who own our building, and they were like, unfortunately there's really nothing we can do. You can't just like evict people in New York City. You need a case. So like send us videos with timestamps of what's going on. So I start taking videos all the time, which it starts to be like literally every single day. It would just be like, oh, he's screaming again, or oh, someone's screaming bloody murder again. So I just started collecting a bunch of videos. So I had like a whole album of stuff that I would send to them so that they could send it to their lawyers to create a case. So I go to NYU, so I'm in a New York City, just regular apartment, but there are other NYU girls, or were other NYU girls in my building who happened to share one of the walls with the man who was screaming. And they said that in like the middle of the night, like he'll be pounding on things. It'll sound like he's hammering things. He'll be screaming. He'll be yelling. He'll be kicking things, punching things, throwing things, breaking things. Like they've called the police multiple times. So other people in our building are obviously noticing it. People start talking, like when we're in the halls, like trying to figure out what's going on and what we can do. So one day in particular, it gets really bad. And I actually don't know, like I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember it being really bad to the point where we were like, okay, it had been going on for so long where we like weren't calling the police because we had called the police so many times and there was nothing they could do, that we were like, okay, we're calling the police right now because this is really bad. And they were like, okay, we've gotten other reports. We're sending people. So they send like EMTs, fire department, and police, because we were like, let's do you should do a wellness check. So knock down the door. So for reference, our apartment building is like, the walls are like paper thin. So like if I'm sitting on my couch, I can hear the front door downstairs open, and I can also hear people walking in and out of their units, specifically like if they're on our floor. And the guy was, of course, on our floor. So I heard him come home, get into his apartment, and he did not leave because there's only one door to leave your apartment. So I knew he was in his apartment and he was screaming bloody murder. So multiple people in the building call. So then now into the story, the police come. So they start knocking on his door and he's not answering. And they're like, guys, like he's not home. There's like nothing we can really do. And I was and they're like, okay, we're going to knock down the door. So they get the fire department to come and knock down the door. When they do, the first thing that the firefighter says is, oh my God, it looks like a sex dungeon in here. So that's never a good sign. So they walk around his entire apartment and he is nowhere to be found because he escaped through his fire escape, through the courtyard, and out through the front door of our building. So the second that they open the door, we're all kind of like standing with our heads peeking out of our window, obviously, or out of our door, like obviously want to know what's going on. And the entire building starts to smell like bleach, like reeking of bleach, like so bad. And at this point, because so many people had called the police, like multiple people were coming down to our floor and just like looking at what was going on, because there was also so many like emergency responders in our building. So they said that we didn't obviously look inside of his apartment, but they said that his whole apartment was covered in blue tarps and cleaning supplies. And I believe that I have a photo from downstairs seeing that his window was covered in blue tarps. So if I have it, I will insert it here. So his whole apartment was covered in blue tarps and cleaning supplies. There's blue tarps hanging from the ceiling, blue tarps covering all of the surfaces, bleach, whatever. So we're obviously freaking out because we're also like, where did he go? Like he was obviously here. So obviously at this point, like everyone in the building's really concerned. And so the girls who share the wall with him, like I invited them into our apartment and we were just like talking, and like other people in the building like started talking with us. And the people who live directly above him were like, we've been calling the police obviously for like the screaming sounds, but also because our whole apartment has been smelling like bleach. So we were just really concerned, and like they had been calling the super or whatever because the bleach scent was like going through the vents. So eventually the police are like, sorry guys, he's not here. We have to leave. There's nothing we can do once again. So they leave and we're all still like talking in the lobby. And as we're talking in the lobby, the guy whose apartment it is like comes sprinting up the stairs, runs into his apartment and locks the door. So we're all like, oh my gosh. So we call 911 again. I called them and was like, hi, just want you to know that you guys just left. But the guy returned back to his apartment, re-explained the whole situation. Takes them 45 minutes, but they eventually come back and they take him away into the ambulance, whatever. I don't really know what happened. All I do know is that the girls texted me later that night saying that he returned. Thankfully, this was around my summer break from school, so I went home, and eventually by the time that I came back to school, he was completely moved out and there's new people moved in, so I'm not really sure what happened. So we asked the building for compensation and they tried raising our rent, and we were like, how about you decrease our rent because we literally had a murderer in our building? And they were like, okay, well, we can't do that, but we're going to give you guys $200 gift cards to any place you want. And I was like, okay, that's like not helpful at all, but like, sure, obviously we'll accept. So I go, oh, I'll get a DoorDash gift card. And they were like, actually, we only like supporting small businesses, which like, okay, totally get and understand. And I also love supporting small businesses, but we literally had a man murdering people in our building. We don't know that for sure. We're not exactly 100% sure what happened. But I feel like the least you could do is give me, like, let me choose where this gift card's money is going. And like, oh my God. And so this is so unimportant to the story, but like, yeah, so we don't actually know what happened. And I actually had multiple people in my building text me being like, hey, did you ever get any update? And I was like, I actually have no idea. Those girls moved out. A lot of people in my building did move out because like the situation did go on for like over a year. And it was definitely getting really crazy and really scary. So I really hope that everything was okay. And I really don't know what happened. I think I am going to reach out to the building and just like see if there's any update. I don't know what they're allowed to tell us or what they're not. But it was definitely really scary. And I hope that that guy got the help that he needed. I hope that everyone is safe. Really crazy part of my college experience was coming home to literally screams of bloody murder and agony any time of the day, literally any time of the day. So that was a long way to story time. Wow, this is really long, so hopefully I can edit it down. But thanks so much for watching.
Hi, my name is Alexandra and my wedding just passed by, and this is a story on how my husband's friend slapped me across the face twice on our wedding day. And yes, it was a girl. So jumping into the story, to preface, originally she had RSVP'd that she was not coming, and my husband was a little taken aback by this because he had always assumed that they were really good friends. But then when she said that she wasn't coming to his wedding because she lived in Copenhagen and it was 3 hours away, he was taken aback and a little hurt because he had thought that they were initially closer than that because of their friend group. And he had asked me, oh, do you think you would miss your best friend's wedding? And I said no. And I told him, maybe you guys are not as close as you think. To me, this was not an issue because this girl had always given me weird energy. Let me just say that. And I always wanted to keep her at arm's length because I always felt that sometimes she would act out and was essentially a pick-me. Anyways, a few weeks passed by, and shortly before our wedding, she suddenly can make it. And then she asks, on top of that, if she can bring a +1. My husband and I discussed it, and I said I'm not entirely confident giving her a +1 because not only is that an extra mouth to feed, but she has made it a point to say she loves hooking up with men that are really, really not good men. And I don't want to feed someone who's not a good man. And so my husband put a boundary with her and said, if it's just one of your hookups, absolutely not. But if it's a serious boyfriend, yes, you can bring him. She then said it was a serious boyfriend. So the day of our wedding, she comes with her boyfriend. He's a great guy, super sweet, but she wasn't really outwardly talking to me a lot. His other friends in the same friend group, lovely people. I absolutely love them. However, when it's time for our first dance, I catch her gaze a few times and she's staring at me kind of like that. And in Spanish, we call it tamal de ojo, but instantly I was like, these vibes are off. But it was just for a few brief seconds, and I go back to enjoying my husband during our first dance. The moment our first dance concludes, she then comes right over to me and yanks me by my arms and then says, let's dance. Okay, girl, I guess let's dance. So we're dancing on the dance floor. People are joining us, and she's being a little assertive with her dance moves and grabbing my arms and whatnot. And I can't help but feel like it was slightly aggressive. So I'm trying respectfully to kind of move away from her and dance with my friends. But then out of nowhere, this girl says, let's go take some shots, tequila. And so I go, oh, okay, let's go take some shots. So we go right over to the bar. The bartender's right in front of me, and she orders tequila shots for us. Mind you, I'm the literal bride. I have my veil on, my white dress. I'm the literal bride, okay? And for a brief moment, because I'm the bride, people are calling your name all day long. I hear someone from the right of me call my name. I briefly turn for a few seconds, and out of nowhere, I feel a hand slap me to my left cheek. I'm taken aback. I'm trying to process what just happened. And next thing you know, I feel a lighter, but still a slap across my right cheek. So boom, boom, right? And I look at her and she's laughing and she goes, "The shots are ready." I could feel the heat emitting from my body. I feel like there was no sound for a second and I feel myself getting hot. And I wanted to get physical, but instantly I told myself, this girl wants attention. If I fight her, she's gonna take attention from my wedding day. And I know that if I give her attention, then she's gonna get what she wants, essentially. So I take my shot and instantly I book straight to the door. I find my little sister who's outside, minding her own business. The moment I tell my sister, she's inside. My sister's looking for her. I end up telling my husband. My husband was a little, having fun, drinking. The moment I tell him, he like sobered up, gets super serious, and I beg him, please do not say anything until after our wedding. Because if we make a scene now, then it's gonna give her attention. And that's something that I'm just not gonna do. Let's just say my husband ended up handling it because he could not wait. Because he said, "What do you mean someone touched my bride?" Secondly, don't worry about it because some of my girlfriends ended up finding out. My best friend's Thea ended up tripping her and spilling a drink right on her. People were not being nice to her and she ended up crying. So that's the story on how one of my husband's gal pals slapped me across the face on my wedding day.